The top 10 quarterback list starts with two guys sharing the top 10 spot, Caleb Williams and Drake May. Both guys made big leaps in their second seasons. Drake May was second in MVP voting this season and helped get his team to the Super Bowl. Caleb Williams had a great second season where he played like the guy who was drafted number one overall. He had the Rams on the ropes in the playoffs in the divisional round, and is looking like he's going to be the best quarterbacks the Bears have probably ever had. Um, because they are both second year quarterbacks who showed flashes in their first seasons and really put it together in their second season, I think it's fitting that they share this spot. At 9, I have Justin Herbert. He put together a solid season this year with a very banged up offensive line. Throughout his career, he has a lot of solid seasons that, I think has him in top 10 quarterback considerations, but sometimes it feels like he could be, a lot better. And I think, going into this next season, he should be better. He's going to have a healthier offensive line. He's going to have a new offensive coordinator in Mike McDaniel. Herbert, is also going to have a chance to really do something in the AFC West because it feels like it's kind of open this year. It feels like, anybody except maybe the Raiders could win it. Who knows what the Raiders do this season. So it's going to be interesting to see, how Herbert and the Chargers do this upcoming season. Um, at 8, I have Dak Prescott. Dak had a bounce back year after missing most of the 2024 season with an injury. He threw for 4,552 yards, 30 touchdowns with Brian Schottenheimer as the new head coach, and he's still the play caller. He was the play caller when Mike McCarthy was there and took over him after he got fired. And if you look at Dak's numbers, he has this weird trend where you know, he'll have a good season, maybe even a great season, and then he'll follow it up with a bad year, whether it be just due to bad play or due to injury. It's this weird up and down thing he does. I don't understand it. I think it's just something that happens a lot, and of course because it's that time of year, there's a lot of hype around the Dallas Cowboys this season. Or going into this season, just because it's towards the end of the off season, and the big media networks need to talk about something. So it's, let's talk about how the Dallas Cowboys are going to, actually go on a deep playoff run this year when we all know that they're just going to end up, probably jobbing out to somebody like in the wild card round or their divisional round. Um, yeah. So at 7, I have, and look, some people are going to say it's a little biased, but hey, it's my list. I can do whatever I want. At 7, I have Brock Purdy. When healthy, Brock is a top 10 quarterback in this league. He had a solid season despite only playing 9 games this season. A little banged up, had a couple injuries, but it happens. Um, when Brock was playing, the 49ers went 7-2 on the season, and what was largely with a supporting cast of guys. I mean, one due to injuries like Kendrick Bourne, Demarcus Robinson, and Jake Tonjes. Um, you know, and then also Brock's run, the games he had from week 11 to week 17, where he went 6-0 through for 1,454 yards, 16 touchdowns, and had a completion percentage of 70.7 and a passer rating of 11.5. Yeah, I think when he puts up numbers like that, it shows you, oh yeah, this guy is a top 10 quarterback when healthy. Um, would have loved to have seen him play a full season, and hopefully he can stay healthy this season. And not just him, all the 49ers. And as I'm recording this video, like a couple of this past weekend, Shanahan was in a car accident. So when I mean all the 49ers, I mean all the 49ers. Not just like the players, but even the people who are handing you like the concessions at the stadium. Everybody in that organization needs to stay healthy, man. At 6, I have Jared Goff. Jared Goff has put together a couple solid seasons. He very much deserves to be in the top 10, and you could probably make the case that he is a top 5 quarterback. I mean, you kind of look at his numbers; they've been pretty consistent since he's been a Lion. Um, this season, he threw for over 45,000 yards, 34 touchdowns, with a combination of John Morton and Dan Campbell as his play callers. Um, like I said, his numbers have been pretty consistent. They're pretty similar to what he had in the 2024 season, where Ben Johnson was his coach. Sorry for the stumbling and the stammering there. He's going to have another new play caller this season, so it's going to be interesting to see how he plays going into this season. But if he's plays like he has his last couple of years, he should be fine. And, like I said, his numbers have been pretty consistent. At 5, Joe Burrow. I was hesitant to put Joe Burrow in the top 5 because, he can't stay healthy. But then I remembered how good Joe Burrow is when he is playing. And, I mean, one, if I put Brock on the list, and, I should be able to put Joe in the top 5. Um, you know, so, like I said, hopefully he can stay healthy and just, help me justify this ranking. At 4, I have Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, the guy just wins. And when you think the Chiefs are about to lose, Mahomes does something crazy, like he'll, run around for 15 seconds and throw it up, and somehow somebody will be wide open and they'll be scoring a touchdown. I don't know how to explain it. They just find a way to do it. Although usually it's, probably aided by the officials in some capacity. But we don't need to talk about, blatant missed calls, blatant misholding calls in both Super Bowls against the 49ers. I guess it's just a coincidence that Bill Vinovich was the lead official for both of those Super Bowls, but that's neither here nor there. Back to Mahomes. He's a top 5 quarterback based off his reputation more than his stats, because his numbers aren't that great. They're solid, but based off his last 3 seasons, his numbers probably should put him around the top 5. And, I'll put him here at 4. But when you look at his numbers, I'm like, maybe he should be a bit, farther down on the list. But, I'll show some respect. I'll put him in at 4. At 3, I have Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is probably a top 2 quarterback when healthy. But, that's the problem. Sometimes he just can't stay healthy. But when he's out there and he's playing, he is one of the best quarterbacks, to play the game. So I have him here at 3. Um, the guy has to stay healthy. I think that's the number one point I'm trying to make here, is that he needs to stay healthy. At 2, I have Matthew Stafford. It's crazy that at one point in the 2025 offseason, the Rams, were letting him explore trade possibilities. I think the Giants and Raiders were, a possibility at one point. But he ended up staying with the Rams, and then right before the season starts, it's announced that he has a back injury that could sideline him for the start of the season, and then that doesn't end up happening, and he ends up playing, and he has, an MVP season. He leads the Rams all the way to the NFC Championship game, and he leads the league in passing, with 4,707 yards, 46 touchdown passes at the age of 38. That's crazy when you really think about it. That, everything that Matthew Stafford was able to do this season, despite his age, despite the injury, and all that. And now at number 1, I have Josh Allen. Josh Allen is probably my favorite quarterback, not named Brock Purdy, to watch play. The guy can beat you with his arm, he can beat you with his legs. He had 39 total touchdowns this last season, and the only real knock on him is whether or not he can get it done in the playoffs. And I think eventually he will. He just has had a lot of bad luck, in the playoffs at times. But, the guy has everything it takes to get his team to the playoffs, and it's only a matter of time before he finds himself playing in a Super Bowl. And yeah, that's my top 10 list. I guess let me know what you guys think in the comments below, if anyone even watches this video. And we'll see. If maybe this video does somewhat well, maybe I'll make another top 10 list of some kind. Maybe wide receivers or something.